Morning, everybody. Welcome to our pre-market stream that we open up to the public on Wednesdays. Just want to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what's going to happen after I'm done speaking here. This is Spartan here, by the way. Once I'm done talking, Beth is going to come on, give you a little bit of breakdown of the macro environment, as well as any news events that happen over the course of the evening and today that will matter. When she's done, I'll come on. We'll talk about some of the individual names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. It is earnings season, so a lot of these plays will be earnings plays. Once that is finished, we'll go through the technicals on those charts, build an action plan for the open, as well as we'll go through the SPY and the FANG. Once that's done, South Beach will come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment, any analyst calls he likes for the day. We'll do a quick little recap of what we talked about. I'll show you guys the options ideas that we've generated as well in the morning, alongside the equity ideas, and then we'll get ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Beth, and thanks for popping in and watching.
Thank you, my friend. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to those of us joining us this Wednesday as we open up the room to pre-market on YouTube. Lots to discuss today. Not so much from macro data coming out, but more about some of the things that happened overnight that do have implications for the market as a whole going forward. First off, the Russian energy minister came out and said that he's not thinking that there's going to be any sort of OPEC plus change in terms of cutting production. That clearly will affect crude. It's already very soft based on what we're seeing globally in terms of slowdowns. So this would be one of those things that crude does not want to have happen. There's too much supply right now. Another thing that happened overnight that is being printed in some of the media out of Asia is that China is looking to remove Lam and replacing her with another individual. This clearly has long-term implications. If this is true, I've commented that the Chinese have been incredibly patient in terms of what's going on with Hong Kong. If they do remove Lam, that's the indication that, hey, they're done. They've had enough of this, and they want someone who's going to be a little bit more heavy-handed in the hard line. Right? So we do have to keep an eye on that. That would send some shockwaves to the market as a whole. The UK, out of the, here in the States, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine is talking about the quid pro quo, whatever. We know that the House is going to vote to impeach, and nothing's going to happen in the Senate. So let's move on. Let's take a peek at another thing that happened that I think is important, and Twins was kind of talking about it this morning. I'm going to be watching Texas Instruments as well with their miss and guidance lower. That has semis are so important to the market as a whole. We do have to keep an eye on that. Spartan's going to be all over it today, I would think. We'll be keeping an eye on it just to see whether it holds up well. The stock starts to bounce. Boeing as well. I think they're finally ripping off the Band-Aid, but we'll see what the conference call has to say. So those are the things that I found very important and interesting. Don't forget when it's earnings season, guys. Everything else kind of goes in the background during this time of year. And we'll see if there's any surprise positiveness that can come out of this. Right? Let's talk about the 2-year, 10-year. It got into the consolidation where it's been ranging for so many months. I do have, and do not forget, we discussed yesterday cycles. We have cycles coming in on the TLT, so that would mean a bounce in the TLT, lower interest rates, and on the other side, we discussed yesterday the cycles coming in on the S&P and NASDAQ and IWM, the small caps. So this is what it looks like when you have these cycles coming in. They are not indicative of trend change. It just means that there's anticipated change of direction short term, and you've just tightened up your stops. That's what it means. Hong Kong, it really, and I've commented on this before, that these are teenagers who are basically doing this. And if you read the article here on the South China Morning Post, I find it fascinating what they're looking for. They want to return back to the old ways. So it is important to give some thought as to what can happen to appease the youth. And I don't see it happening. It's a great article if you're looking to get into the idea, the mindset of what they want to see. China. This is the Chinese newsprint run by the government. They're wonderful. That's all I have to say. China's opening up its stores, win-win cooperation. I did not realize that there was discussions, and I think this is being this was a Wang Yi, the foreign minister. He's in France, and he's talking about a third party intervening to help with the trade talks. I had no idea, to be honest with you, that there was any discussion that maybe France would get involved, but they're kind of pouring, cold water on that idea. We'll keep an eye on that as well, just to see what's going to happen. Let's take a look also. I apologize, I'm traveling, so let's take a look at this. This is the Sentiment Trader, for those of you who are new and visiting. Great website. It's financial institutions. It's heavily used through hedge fund managers, everything, just to get ideas in terms of what's going through on the market. Very wonky site. They look at everything. And this is what caught my eye overnight, is the hedge fund catch-up. And we've discussed the amazing lag going on right now in the hedge fund as opposed to S&P. And as you can see, this is a big deal. It has always been a leader, not a laggard. And this tells us that there's still a lot of money on the sidelines, and those are the money that is being used. Don't forget, there was last year, there was a heavy involvement in terms of bonds, TLT, as well as on the gold side, commodity side. So that money's left the system, right? And part of that explains how they are lagging. Also, they just haven't been all in on this market. They just don't want to be on the risk-on type trades. Smart money versus dumb money. Dumb money has done a much better job than smart money in terms of catching these waves in the market. Let's take a peek as to what does this mean going forward. Not so much short term, but as you can see here, they continue to lag, basically. Right? The S&P will continue to outperform now. Right? So that's kind of important. Another thing that I've been discussing as a theme the past couple of weeks is valuation. Buying valuation, dividend type stocks. And I still think that's reasonable. Okay, and that would be like the small cap DFA. And if you notice yesterday that the IWM, the Russell did not sell off as much as what we saw in the S&P and the NASDAQ. I continue to feel that we will see this market holding up well and short-term potentially outperforming the rest of the market. Right? When this does happen, okay, value growth, okay, when it's, you can see here, this is really important, okay? The returns that can, potential. This is 1 year out, 78% probability, 6.9, but it's the second year and third year, okay, that you really see things pedal to the metal sort of thing. 37.8% return, 89% probability, okay, that these value stocks will start performing, right? And this is what, I do the macro longer dated themes, narratives. So this is a reason why I really think that you have to have some exposure going out in this section of the marketplace. Another thing that I wanted to discuss with you is what's going on in the S&P for this year. This is actually quite unusual, guys, and I wanted to show you this. It's only happened 2, 4, 6, 7 other times, going back to 1944, mind you. In 1946, this was because after the war they thought there would be more easy money, and there wasn't. So as you can see here, when this has happened, that'll be up 1 month out, and as you can see, this is a very bullish narrative for the market, and I did want to share this with you because it has not happened since 1989, and then before that you can see 60s, 40s. Okay, so that's something we have to keep an eye on. Also, I want to talk about the breadth of the market as well. When this does happen once again, okay, you can see it's still a bullish narrative for the market. The trend is still higher, guys. I can continue to follow that, and I continue to pound the table on that. Are we going to have corrections? Absolutely. Are we in the midst of a correction? Potentially, okay, but we really don't know. The cycles, it could be very shallow, and I would expect it to be very shallow, the correction level of the cycles. Right? Let's take a look at the EFA. I like this, but you know the rules, guys. This is the top end of the range. You basically sell, take profits. You have a small amount. If it does break out and hold out on the continuation, that's when you get back in and you start to lean into it. Right? As far as most of the charts look like, guys, with the top end of the range, it's the individual tickers, and this is why I continue to say it's the equity, the individual names, okay, that we want to focus in on. But if this does break and hold, I'm going to be on that, and I'm going to be recommending that. Right? Let's take a look at the Chinese yuan. What's going on there? It has come back in. It's stabilizing right now. If we start to see this going back up, that would probably be an indicator for us that things are not going well in the talks, right? Because every time with the tariffs, they have to devalue the currency to offset the impact of the tariffs on their economy, the Chinese. Right? We're reaching a resistance level as well on the FX side. This is a large cap. Not ready to break out yet. The key will be holding this uptrend line. Okay, and if it fails and gets back in this downward channel. Right now it's holding up. The problem I have, and I've discussed, is I don't have any strength in terms of seasonality in any of the Chinese names until closer to the end of the year. We're talking about the DAX yesterday as well. This is the ETF EWG in terms of playing with it. Also, this is at resistance levels. It's going to take some time. I would not be surprised to see this come back down, but I anticipate and expect that it will break out, but I will not do anything until it actually breaks and holds above this key resistance. Okay. Crude gold, this is the most important spread you need to know in terms of trading these commodities. As you can see, neutral. We're sideways consolidation. Next week we'll have clarity when we get to the FOMC. Okay, so it's next week, next Wednesday. TLT, we've been nailing this. Right now, we do have a cycle coming in. We should expect some bounce in it. And with that said, if you go to the CME right here, they're factoring in 94.6% probability that there will be a rate cut next week. We've seen softer economic data, and I would, at first, I did not think it would happen, but with the data that we've seen in the past week, absolutely, we will get that cut. Now, the question is going to be is next month's FOMC. They are starting 30% now, right? They're starting to build in another rate cut, okay, next month. We'll keep an eye on that because that will also factor in terms of the bonds, guys. Right? Okay, let's take a look at the VIX. The VIX has been screaming danger, danger, and it must break below this triple bottom here for us really to get any sort of tailwind momentum in this market on the upside. It continues to not want to play, and this is the VIX never lies, and this is our biggest red flag out there in terms of what's going to happen with the market. I won't really have confidence in terms of the next major leg up in the market until we break down below this triple bottom here. Right? So you do have to have protection on your portfolio until that happens, guys. And that would be with the VXX or whatever however you want to play UVXY. I don't know. It's whatever your favorite volatility index is. Okay. Let's take a peek at the put-call ratio. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay. As you can see here, we did have a little bit of buying yesterday with the price action we saw in the market. I would not be surprised. We should open up around the mid 80s. I don't see much of a move one way or the other with it right now. This is starting to lose importance right now. Only on the extreme can we really have some sort of clarity with it. Extreme on the upside and extreme on the downside. And that would be below this level here and above this level. So we're neutral right now with that. Okay, let's take a peek at the crude. As I mentioned, there was a news out from the Russian energy minister. OPEC is meeting. It is holding up very well. We don't have the breakout yet that we need either on the downside or on the upside. This is really quite fascinating that we have so many sectors, so many ETFs that are consolidative. I really haven't seen this before to this degree, guys. And I don't know what it means. All I'm saying is that you have to be very disciplined in terms of your trading. Not anticipate, expect, but wait for confirmation on breakouts or breakdowns. That's where we are. Gold is also holding up very well. Sideways consolidation next week is important, obviously, with gold. I really did think that we would get into this quadrant with it. It may take some sort of macro shock. I don't know, but it's holding up very well. If we do break above this downtrend line, those of you who are following me on some of these counter trend trades, please, I will be shouting it out. This will be an event for the FOMC. We break above this weekly downtrend line, I will be getting out of all of my puts that we've had on since this 1566 high. All right. Let's take a peek now at some of these ETFs. As mentioned, there's not much to say except with the EF. As you can see with the financials XLF, we now have a triple top in place. So if you are in the financials, individual tickers or stuff like that, please, I suggest caution because we did not break up and hold. Okay, so I would not be surprised for us to start to see a move down in it, right, in the financials. This actually has been one of the leaders in this rally, not something that is common. We do have Microsoft coming out. with earnings. If you, the XLK is the ETF, and this is the cheapest way to play Microsoft if you are so inclined. Okay, this is a cheap way you buy, you can do a strangle on it. I'm sure that Brian will have something as a trade for you guys this afternoon. I'm still on vacation with my family, so I won't be busy with them. But I'm sure that Brian will guide you on that one. Okay. Topping until we get clarity. There's a lot of room on the downside here, guys. So this is why you have to be really careful into these resistance zones, because if they do start to fail, I would not be surprised to see a move down to the 77 and possibly the 75. So just be aware of that. We could get a nice little move down. Still within a consolidation, nothing has changed there. All right, let's take a peek at the healthcare. It did break this downtrend line. As you can see here, it's revisiting it. These are weekly charts, so it matters where it closes. It would be incredibly bearish, okay, if we basically close back below in this downtrend line. And it's still consolidative, though. So, you know, that's the theme right now. We've basically moved up to the top end of the range on a lot of these. And now we're basically seeing whether we can hold. XLU held the weekly uptrend line, guys. This is really important because this would be a risk off type trade. So we have to be aware of that as we start to move higher. Let's take a look at the industrials now. XLI. Where are we here? Was thinking about breaking out, but kind of back down in. So, you know, a lot of these, we got a triple top here as well. I'm seeing failure in a lot of the, not so much failure. I'll rephrase it. Some of these are breaking back down and not holding the breakout, but they still haven't done what they need to do in the bigger picture, which is do the break the pop the top, right? So, you know, we have to be aware of that. Once again, the transports is important. FedEx, we're watching that very carefully to see what's going to happen here. It's kind of in no man's land for now. We'll keep an eye to see whether it breaks down below this resistance level on the weekly. So this is a potential, another red flag coming our way. And, you know, the Dow theory with it. It's something that we have to keep an eye on. And you can see here, sideways consolidation for basically 2019. And this is why once we do break, and I feel we will break the upside, when we do break, this is going to be a very powerful move. Right? I'm still bullish. That narrative hasn't changed. On the micro side, which Spartan guides us in, that's a different picture. On the micro side, I think we're going to be consolidation come in, but I want to see how, you know, the semis hold out, whether they hold up or not. And if they don't, then that would be an indication to me clearly that we're going to see go to the bottom of the range. Right? And we'll keep an eye on NVIDIA. This is the one that I really want to look at into earnings as well to see how it's going to hold up. With that said, my time is up. Once again, welcome to those of you who are joining us today with our open pre-market stream. And Spartan, my friend, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, cheers, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Beth. Morning, guys. Let me just pop up the screen share here. All right. So if you guys are just popping in for the first time today, welcome. This is our pre-market stream. That was Beth. This is Spartan here. Going to be breaking down a little bit about the individual names that we're looking at today. A couple earnings plays. So a couple things we're looking at: BA, TXN, Snap, IRBT, NNDM now. So BA earnings mixed negative, EPS miss, rev in line, year-over-year growth negative 20.5%. Sold off in earnings, so it's holding up decent. It's obviously being bought into right now, or being bought back up on that negative news. TXN earnings in line, EPS beat, rev miss, year-over-year growth negative 11.5%. Lowers guidance for Q4 to 91 cents to 109 per share, and revenue of 3.07 billion to 3.33, and from the current consensus, which was 128 EPS and 3.67 billion. So lowered on both EPS and revenue. Snapchat earnings beat, EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 49.9%. Guidance was in line, gapping actually up on that. It pulled yesterday and pushed back up. Interesting earnings. IRBT earnings beat, EPS and revs. Fiscal 19 guidance year was lowered for EPS and revenue. That's why they're gapped down. NNDM reached major milestones, selling more than 50 systems worldwide since the launch of its commercial sales in Q4 2017. That thing is gapping up, small stock. And then now Kurt CEO to leave for Nike and be replaced by Bill McDermott. And that now also does have earnings today, so notable. Let's take a look at what we got going on from a technical standpoint on these names. So a couple different things we're going to be looking at here. Let's see. BA and TXN, the first two. So BA, TXN. So my BA chart, as you can see, has a ton of support resistance levels on it already. Let's do this. Let's make this, hide the drawings. Let's just do it from scratch. So what do we got going on? Oops. What do we got going on here? A couple different things. Stock's gapping up to around the 342.50 area. See that there's a support area right at this point. Actually, you know what? We can just do it this way. Just use my levels that I have already and just rebrand them. Yeah, that's the best way to do it, because the range is tight anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, so 342.43 pivot point to the upside today. Level breaks. We got room for continuation into the 345 area. If we take 345.48, if we take that out, we got room all the way back towards the 350.58. Unable to hold that, or unable to get above that pivot point, we're going to look for a pullback on BA towards 337.23. Put that right here. And if that level breaks, we'll see further continuation lower into the 331 area. So let me just label that pivot. And what's the pivot point? Pivot point is not an actual pivot point indicator. It's just a term that I'm using to signify that the stock is crossing a certain large support or resistance level that can cause direction change. So in this case, this is reclaiming a support area, 342.43 on the daily, which should cause a direction change to the upside for an extended period of time. And then these other little support areas that I'm making dotted are just to make them less noticeable, but they still matter. These are still support areas. I just don't want them to stand out as much. There we go. Okay, so 342.43 pivot point to the upside today. Level breaks and holds, room towards 345.48. Gets above that area, we see 350.58 to the upside. Unable to hold 342.43, look for a pullback towards that 337.23 support. And if that breaks, we see 331.11 to the downside. Leaning bullish. I think obviously the BA is holding up for a reason. It's being bought into the dip. So I think that we can see continuation to the upside today. So that's what I'll be looking for there. Further continuation higher on BA. Let's take a look at, I just want to take a look at one thing here, guys. BBI. Okay, weird. All right, TXN. So earnings were obviously bearish in regards to the guidance. They lowered it, gap down on that. Let's take a look at where the stocks got room to today. So TXN gapping down to around 118.69 this morning. Let's get some support levels going. Quite a bit of range. Cool. There you go. So what's going on here? Pivot point to the upside, 118.72 support. If that level is able to break, we got room back towards 120.64. Get above that, we can see 123.57. Unable to hold 118.72. Look for a pullback towards 116.30 support. If that breaks, 113.62 will be the next level to the downside to be tested. So overall on Texas Instruments, I am leaning on the bearish side. I'm gonna be looking for a pop, so any sort of, so basically some bounce on the name, topping then to take the stock short. I think that's the best way to play it. Obviously, it's holding up right now. So I'll be looking for more continuation higher and then that topping to occur maybe after the morning and then a sell off back to the downside. Obviously, I'll play the chart. If it just continues to bounce, you just stay long. That's what I'm thinking there. BA and Texan. One thing that I've noticed obviously this morning is, all the big names with bad earnings are holding up for the most part. So this could rub off on Texas a little bit and you can see a further continuation bounce to the upside. Notable. Let's take a look at Snap and IRBT. All right, so Snapchat, IRBT. Let's take a look here. So Snapchat, obviously coming off of earnings, sold off into the earnings yesterday. Interesting chart. Let's take a look at where we got room to today. I'm just going to draw some support resistance on this thing. Resistance. $50 EMA, obviously. Alrighty, so, and I also labeled that 1550 resistance as well above. $14, pivot point to the upside today. If this level is able to hold, we got room for continuation back to 1456 to 1513. That breaks 1550 will be tested. $14, unable to hold. Look for continuation lower towards 1344. If this support breaks, we see 1257 again back to the downside. Right now on Snapchat, I am leaning more on the bullish side. So what I'm going to be looking for is any sort of basing to take that stock long, so pull basing or hold the pivot basing on a continuation higher. I think the range is going to be pretty tight today on that name, so that's what I'll be expecting. IRBT, let's take a look at this one. Obviously, gap down on the earnings. Sold off on that. Let's take a look at the daily. Must have played some sort of trade on it recently. Let's delete all this crap. All righty. Let's take a look at this chart intraday. So 43.96 pivot point to the upside today on IRBT. The support holds. We got room back towards 46.58 resistance. If that breaks, we're in the gap. Actually, we got room towards 51 on the upside. Unable to hold 43.96. Look for continuation lower towards 42.02. If that breaks, we see 39.62 on the downside. Overall on IRBT, I am leaning on the bearish side, going to be looking for any sort of bounce, topping, take the stock short. I think we'll see continued sell-off to the downside. Now let's take a look at the last two, NNDM and now. Snap, IRBT. FYI, guys, you can't see it, but Beth's posting the options ideas. I'll show you guys in a little second here, because obviously you can't see the chat. Let's take a look at the last two, NNDM and now. So NNDM, stock's gapping up, small stock, obviously. Let's see here. Okay, so obviously it's coming off of a reverse split. Classic case. Wait a second. Let's see if I can do this. That's it, eh? Okay. $349, 2, $349, 122. I can go lower than that. All right. Just had to do a little bit of Fibonacci extensions on that thing to get my levels. So what's going on here? Obviously, small stock gapping up. 380 pivot point to the upside today. If this level is able to hold, we got room for continuation towards 481, which is what it's doing right now, flagging to the upside. If it breaks 481, we got room back towards the we got room into the 531 level on the upside. Unable to hold that 380, look for a pullback to 336 support to 294. We can look for maybe some basing there, see if it occurs. If it not, it's going to sell off towards that 215 area on the downside. Right now, leaning bullish, looking for a continuation higher. You do have a flag in the pre-market, guys. If you do want to scalp it through the high of the day, the pre-market highs, go for it. Should be able to get continuation. Clear flag, obviously. 481 is your next level of resistance. There you go. Want to be selling some into that spot. Leaning bullish, looking for continuation to the upside there. Now, let's take a look at this one. So now gap down on the CEO being replaced. Let's see where we got room to today on this thing. Obviously, we gap down into this gap area, which is an important support. There you go. Get rid of that. And 221. Let's see where the last. All right, now obviously a lot of range here. This 209.98 is your pivot point to the upside today. Level holds, we got room back towards 221 to the 228 on the upside. It can fill the gap. That's the way I'm thinking it's going to go right now. Unable to hold at 209.98, look for a pullback to 203.30. If that level breaks, 195.19 will be tested to the downside. Overall on now, leaning bullish, going to be looking for a continued bounce to the upside and then topping to occur later on. But I think it's holding up well. And that is now. So that's those two. Let's take a look at the last two, or not the last two. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG here. Take a look at what we got across the board. So, SPY, what's going on here? So we sold off yesterday at the end of the day, obviously. Stock gap down to 298.44, which is going to be our pivot point to the downside today. If it holds up, we can see 299.77 to 347 to the upside. Unable to hold that level. And we'll see continuation lower. I'm just going to delete that. Keep this NDM up on the side because I am trading it currently. There you go. So 298.44 pivot. Level holds room back towards 299.77 on the SPY. If that level is unable to hold up the pivot, look for a continuation towards 297.13 on the downside. If that breaks, we see 296. 298.44 holds, look for a continuation of 299.77 to 347 on the upside today. So the SPY is coming into the uptrend on the daily. I'm leaning bullish, going to be looking for that uptrend to hold and continuation back up into these areas here. I think the range on the market may be a little bit tight intraday. Near the end of the day, we'll start to see a move. We got, some big earnings, obviously, after hours, and tomorrow's the real big day for this week. I think that's the day we see the market break out of this wedge, either to the upside or the downside. But right now in the morning, right now, today, leaning bullish, looking for a grind higher. Apple, gapping up, looks good. I'm just going to get my levels from yesterday. One sec. Side charts. Oh, pre-market. Apple. What were my levels? Because I didn't save clearly. 341, 40, 45. 342.62. I know it's 346 above this level. Yeah, that's fine. And then 240. And then 238.29. Alrighty, so Apple. 241.45 pivot point to the upside today level is able to hold. We got room back towards the all-time highs. That breaks 242.61 Fibonacci extension level will be tested. If we get through that, we got room for continuation, actually 246. Unable to hold 241.45, look for a pullback to 240 support. If that breaks, we see 238.29 on the downside today. Overall on Apple, I am leaning bullish. Going to be looking for continuation to the upside. Take a screenshot of that and go to Amazon. What's going on with Amazon? So stock is below pivot support intraday. 1766 is your pivot. If this level is able to hold, we should see continuation back towards 1785. Unable to hold, we look for a continuation lower towards 1739 today. Overall, because it's below the pivot support, I'm leaning bearish until it reclaims it. And I'll be looking for continuation to the downside, 1738, if it can't get over that level this morning. That is Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix, 270, pivot to the upside today. If this level is able to be reclaimed, we've got room back towards 276.66. Unable to hold, we see 264 on the downside. If that breaks, we can see lower into the 260 area of support. Major level is that obviously 269.92 today. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously sold off yesterday. Not the best looking chart. I'm leaning more bearish on Netflix. I think we could see continuation selling pressure. We'll see if it's able to bounce today or not with the market. But right now, leaning bearish as long as it stays below that pivot point. Let's take a look at Facebook. So Facebook, 183 pivot level is able to hold or be reclaimed, I should say. Got room back towards 185s to the 186s on the upside today. Unable to hold 183. We look for continuation lower to 181. If that breaks, 179. Leaning bearish on Facebook below the 183 pivot. I think we'll see continuation lower this morning and then we can maybe look for some basing. Quite a bit of selling pressure on that name yesterday, so we'll see what happens. That's Facebook. Let's take a look at Google. Google, 1246 pivot. Gets above that level. It's got room for continuation towards this level here. 1254. Unable to get through that level. Look for a pullback towards 1236 to maybe 1231 on the downside. Google is stuck in a pretty tight range right now. Leaning bearish on it. Looking for a continuation lower. I think it's, again, below the pivot, so, and below EMA support, leaning more to the downside there. So that's it for the individual names I'm looking at today, the SPY, the FANG. We'll come back once we're done. I'll show you guys the options plays for today, as well as we'll do a quick little recap, and then we'll get ready for the open. I'm going to pass over to South Beach. He'll come on, give you a breakdown of the analyst calls for the day and the macro environment, what he's looking at, and we'll go from there. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Hey guys, how's it going? Let's see what we're looking at today. Let's see. I got some allergies, so I think allergies from Florida. So let's see what happens with that, how I hold up. But that being said, okay, so looking at the bond market, which is always my first read, as you know. Rates are a little bit lower than this morning, which one would conclude we may have more of a risk-off morning, okay? And that's what we're seeing. All right, no surprise there, okay? So we'll see what happens with the bonds as we move forward, but if it stays like this, I would say it's going to be a risk-off day. Okay, China. I don't see anything happen in China overnight other than this Carrie Lam situation. Does it affect the U.S.? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. You know, things there are fluid. Trade talks seem to be fluid. And we'll see what happens. You know, let's put it this way. Other than Carrie Lam looking like, I think what they're doing is saying, you guys better start behaving or we're going to put in a hardliner. We'll see. Okay. There's nothing we're going to do about it. That's for damn sure. Okay? We'll leave Turkey and Syria and all this other shit. We're not going to stick our nose in it. It doesn't seem like to me. Not with this guy as president. No way. Interest rates kind of staying where they are for now. Middle East, we just discussed. We leave. They split up the place. I don't know. Years and years of geopolitical stuff changes in in 1 second because one guy makes a decision. I don't know whether to endorse it or go against it, but it is significant. How it affects the financial markets, I don't think it does. Okay. I do see, though, that Trump is losing some of his luster in the Republican Party. How does that affect us? At the moment, it doesn't. Okay. Impeachment thing went poorly yesterday for him. Someone, was basically saying that, yes, he did use Trump being he used military aid as a carrot to get something that he wanted done. Will that lead to an impeachment? I doubt it. Interest rates, I think they are going to cut by 1/4 of a point, but we'll see. I don't think either move would be disastrous one way or the other if they cut or they didn't cut. Okay, it's kind of sort of on the fence. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't think it. What is surprising to me is the strength of the market in light of some of the earnings that I'm seeing today. That's significant. All right, all the other stuff is tertiary. Okay, so what am I seeing? I saw Boeing throw in the kitchen sink, and the stock's up $5. Okay, the earnings were awful. Stock's up $5. Cat earnings were pretty bad. Stock's barely down. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. Right, I think that's significant. Okay, this other stuff, who the hell knows? This is tangible. This is something that we can react upon. All right, so let's look at some of the earnings for argument's sake. Okay, Texas Instruments in the semiconductor arena is the big dog. Okay, yeah, there's guys who are driving around in Ferraris, like NVIDIA. Okay. Which is, flashy and great and all that kind of stuff. It's a great company. But Texas Instruments is like the Ford F-150. All right. It is the bread and butter of semiconductors. They put semiconductors in everything. Okay. They are the big dog by a mile. All right. And what they're saying is they see softness. All right, stock's down 10. That's a lot for Texas Instruments. It's taking the semiconductor debt group down with it. I guess they had their conference call. I'm not positive. If anybody knows the answer, you can just put it in the chat. But being that their earnings were last night, I would assume they spoke last night. And so the fact that they're having softness leads me to believe that, the industrial complex is soft. Caterpillar just basically said that on their conference call. Okay. Capital spending is soft because of uncertainty in the trade, in global trade. Do I think that if there were a trade agreement, they would turn the switch back on and things would be, back to where they'd want them to be right away? No, I don't think that. Okay, things take a while to ramp up or whatever the case may be. And so I think that there's the global growth is softer than we expected. And that's why the bonds are yielding lower this morning. Okay, so anything that needs global growth, risk on trades should be on the softer side. We did see, which one was it, Norfolk and Southern, with soft numbers. Okay, little surprising in light of UNP's numbers, but CSX was a little soft too. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Usually this group moves uniformly as far as earnings are concerned. Not the case this quarter. All right. I'll be watching Caterpillar today. Definitely focusing on that. And what else? We'll go over the groups in a minute. Now was an interesting situation, okay? Really interesting to me because you have like a, AAA rated CEO leaving to go to one of the best consumer products companies in the world, right? So why'd he go? You got to scratch your head. Did he think he made all of the money he could now and the stock's going to come in? Because believe me, Nike stopped him out on his options, okay, at whatever price it was when they started talking, whether it be 250, 260, 270, and they promised him probably they'd make him whole. Okay, you can rest assured. So what did he think? Why did he leave? Did he think the stock was going south? Did he think the valuations were too high? These are all things that are going through my head with this now. Clearly one of the leaders in that high PE tech group, one of the most recognizable CEOs in that group, if not the most recognizable CEO, and he walks. Okay, very interesting. And this musical chairs, the SAP guy quit the other day. He knew he was coming to now, I assure you. But I'm more interested in why this guy left. Okay. Analysts this morning are trying to gloss over it, like, okay, he went here, but if you look at the underlying stuff, like he left for a reason. If he thought now was going to 500, rest assured he wouldn't leave, because this game is all about the money. So he thought he could make more money at Nike. That's why he left. All right. He didn't leave, the plushness of California to move to wherever it is, Oregon, or wherever the hell Nike is, because he likes Oregon better. Okay. He left because he thought he'd make more money. And he'd make more money if now wasn't going to go up anymore. So I find it very interesting. All right. The other interesting thing is BIIB. I was listening to Kramer last night. I was listening to TV today. I don't know if this drug works or it doesn't. I have no idea. But rest assured that if it does, it will be the biggest drug of all time. I think there are 60 million people who could take this drug in the US, according to them talking on TV. All right. The numbers are staggering. Staggering. Okay. And the FDA asked them to resubmit. So I don't know if they get a approval. I don't know if the insurance companies back it. I don't know a lot of things. All I know is this is a great call option on a stock that could be a monster. And I wouldn't short it with a 10-foot pole except day trade. Okay. This could be, I'm talking about BIIB looking stead. Okay. This drug they're talking about, it could be the biggest drug of all time. Okay. Be careful in this one. I would not short this stock overnight. No way. Okay. Because if some data comes out that's positive, you will be wearing this thing like nobody's business. All right. Be really careful. So that's my thing on BIIB. All right. As far as research, there's only one thing that's worth a damn. Well, first of all, a bunch of guys like Snap. Okay, where's Snap? It's down 15 cents. You can take that research and throw it out the window. The big call is Apple. All right. Morgan Stanley. She's a good analyst. She followed my other favorite analyst. My other favorite research house, which is Raymond James. And this is Katie Huberty, a really good analyst, not like that Tony Sakanagi moron. And she raises her target in Apple to 289. All right. Saying basically what we've been talking about, that 5G is coming right around the corner and business is good even prior to 5G. When they roll out 5G, they're going to sell phones hand over fist. Service revenues are going up, yada, yada, yada. Raises target from 247 to 289. That's a big call. Okay. Other than that, it's all a bunch of crap. Kramer last night was humping BMY and CNC in a big way. And he crapped all over Beyond Beef. Okay. He moves stocks. So it's good to know what he's saying. All right. And he's smart. And I respect the hell out of him. Under Armour, Citibank is saying that they like this transition to the new CEO. He's repositioned the company since he's gotten there, and it's a good move for the company. That's that. Short side, there was really nothing that really got me excited. Let me just double check if anything came out in the meantime. No, it's a bunch of crap. Yeah. I don't see anything there that turns me on. All right, syndicate today. The syndicate situation, especially the IPO business, is really, they're lucky if they get out, flat in these IPOs that have been coming. There are 3 secondaries. One's at $1.20, one's at 60 cents, and some finance company which never moves. So you can ignore the 3 of them. Not worth your time. There are a bunch of IPOs coming later in the week. 2, 4, 6, 7 of them. I think 5 of them are medical based, which never work really. Once in a blue moon. Well, I'll let you know what I think. But for now, None of them excite me. If anything changes, we'll go through them on a daily basis, okay? But for now, I'm getting no buzz on any of these. So that's that. I think the market holds up extraordinarily well. That's the reiteration that I'm making in light of the earnings that came through, okay? BSX had good numbers. CAT was lousy, it's down nothing. Boeing was lousy, it's up. You know, that's what we're looking at. So I think that's impressive. Anthem missed. Will it take down the HMO group? I doubt it, but we'll see. This is the worst of the lot, okay? You know which ones I like. Cigna's my favorite. Humana's second. CNC is third. CVS is fourth. Okay, that's where I stand. I've been telling you that for a long time. As far as the oil stocks, they have been and will continue to be in the house of pain. If you're gonna play them on the long side, it's got to be on a daily basis. You don't want to go home with these stocks. The charts are from top left to bottom right, and they're going to continue to go there until they don't. Wait until it changes before you play them on the long side on anything other than the trade. I was long them yesterday. You know, I had a big position in Oxy that worked out well. I sold it all. Carrying overnights, not the best idea. MA and V couldn't have acted worse yesterday. I was short a fair amount of V. I covered it all on the bell. The reason being, I don't trust overnights. You know, maybe I'll short it again this morning because it feels like to me the trend is starting to change for these stocks, even though I absolutely adore these companies. Okay, I'm not going to short them overnight. It's not worth it. Am I still in CVS? No. The overnights that I took, BCO, is Facebook. Facebook, you know, right now it's trading on headlines, and that's why it's going down. When it trades on fundamentals, it's going to go up like a rocket ship. I did carry some overnight because I know they're going to go in front of some congressional subcommittee today, so I thought it was worthwhile. Other than that, what do I have? Overnights, I was short some SPYs, which I covered. I'm short a small amount of NCLH. I didn't carry much. I put that AA spread on that I was talking about to you guys, buying the NOV 15s, selling the NOV 1s, strike a 21. I like to trade. And I'm long a small amount of AA. I've been buying that IPO A, which I've talked to you guys about. I'm long Telephone, which you guys know, and I'm long Cigna. None of those are day trades. So really, day trading names, the only thing is really Facebook and some SPYs and some NCLH, a bunch of crap, odds and ends. Do I think PMIs are near a bottom? PMIs? What's a PMI? PMIs. Post-menstrual industrials? I don't know. What are they? Anything about AT&T earnings tonight? I don't think this is an earnings play, Twins. I think it is a activist who's trying to increase shareholder value. And so I'm not going to change anything. Maybe I'll hedge a little bit overnight to take some of the risk out. But it doesn't affect how I think. What are PMIs, Ed? Okay, anyway, if you tell me, I'll answer the question. Oh, sorry, private mortgage insurance. I don't know. I don't think I can make money in these stocks. So I don't really focus on them. They don't move enough, do they? I mean, I'll trade the insurance stocks all day long, but the PMIs trade on yield, no? Am I wrong? And they don't move a lot. So I don't really look at them. I'm only going to trade stuff that moves, otherwise I'm wasting my time. All right? Look at this bow and go, holy shit. I had this butterfly 330, 40, 50. I mean, sorry, 20, 30, 40. So looks like I'm going to be out of luck. Went out last night at like $1 and change. So I'm going to try to salvage at least half of it today. Went out at $1.51. So if I can sell it for 75 cents, I'm going to and take a small loss. I put it on for probably $1, so it's not a big deal, but I want to get out. Anything else, guys? I'm giving it back to Spartan if you got no other questions. Okay. All right. So that's it for me. Spartan, it's all yours, buddy.
Thank you, South Beach. All right, guys, let's take a look at what we got going on this morning. Guys, if you're new to chat, I'll post the Discord link in just a few minutes here once we close down the YouTube stream. Pre-market tickers on watch. I've posted everything here, all the action plan, etc. And MDM now, the charts are posted, etc., as well as the SPY and the FANG. And just real quick, we'll just show you the options section as well, guys. So there's the options plays for today that we have off the open, both scenarios, both sides. Obviously, you can see everything here. You can just pause the stream if you want to look at it. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at what we got going on this morning. Pre-market tickers on watch. A couple different things we're looking at this morning. BA, Texas Instruments, Snap, IRBT, and NDM now. And looks like the BA calls are going to work, guys. Yay. Okay, cool. So BA, earnings mix, negative EPS, miss, revenue in line year over year, negative 20.5% sold into. It's being bought back up. I love it. We got room for a continuation right now. Texas Instruments, earnings in line, EPS beat, rev miss, year over year growth, negative 11.5% year over year. Lowers guidance for Q4 to 91 to $1.09 for the EPS, and 3.07 to 3.33 billion for the revenue, from 1.28 to and 3.67. So lowered their guidance. Snapchat earnings beat, EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 49.9%. Guidance or year-over-year growth, guidance in line. Stock basically bounced on that. IRBT earnings beat, EPS and revs. Fiscal 19 guidance lowered, EPS and revs. NNDM reached major milestones, selling more than 50 systems worldwide since the launch of its commercial sales in Q4 2017, gapping up on that. And then now, current CEO to leave for Nike and be replaced by Bill McDermott, and South Beach talked about that one a little bit as well. So solid. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on this morning. BA and TXN. All right, so BA and Texas Instruments. So BA 242.43 is the pivot to the upside today. Level holds room towards 245.48, which we broke. 350.58 is the next level to the upside. Leading bullish, looking for continuation higher. If the pivot's unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 337.23 to 331.11 on the downside. So I like what I'm seeing here on BA. Texas Instruments, 118.72, pivot to the upside today. Level is unable to hold, room lower towards 116.30. That breaks. 113.62 will be tested on the downside. 118.72 holds, look for a continuation towards 120.64. If that breaks, we see 123.57 on the upside today. I'm leaning bearish on Texas Instruments, going to be looking for pop topping, then for the stock to roll over. Let's take a look at Snapchat and IRBT. Snapchat, $14 pivot. Level breaks, room toward 13.44. Unable to hold that. 12.57 will be retested. 14's reclaim. Look for a continuation push back towards the 14.57 level, and then into the 15.13 if that gets through that point. On Snapchat, I'm leaning on the bullish side, but I'm going to be looking for that basing to occur before taking the stock long. So you may see a little bit of more of a sell-off this morning before that occurs, in my opinion. IRBT 43.96 pivot level is unable to hold. Look for continuation lower towards 42.39.62 on the downside. If that pivot does hold, look for continuation higher to 46.58 to the 51.04 level on the upside. Then I'll look for topping up there to take the stock short. Leaning bearish, looking for topping to short the stock, either the break of the pivot or push topping and then take it down. NNDM. So NNDM pivot 380. This level holds, which it is. Look for continuation of 481. Break that, we see 531 on the upside today. If we are unable to hold this 380 on the open, look for a pullback to 336 to 294 support and maybe some basing down there. Most likely, if these levels break, we'll sell off and go towards yesterday's lows. Let's take a look at the last one, which is now. So now 200, basically 210 is your pivot. If this level is unable to hold, you're into the gap. You sell off towards 203.30, support to the downside. That level breaks, we see 195.19. If we're able to hold this level, look for continuation towards 221.81. That breaks, 228.93 will be tested on the upside today. Overall, on this name, I am leaning on the bullish side. On the bearish side, going to be looking for a pop topping to short the stock. I think you will see a continued bounce on it this morning. So definitely play it long up the gate and then look for that topping to occur. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG real quick. SPY, 298.44, pivot point to the upside today. If this level is able to hold, we got room for continuation into the 299.77 area on the upside. That breaks, 347 will be tested. 298.44 unable to hold, look for a pullback to 297.13. If that level breaks, we see continuation lower on the SPY into the 296 support on the downside. On the market today, I'm leaning on the bullish side because it is holding the uptrend on the daily. It did get rejected at the downtrend yesterday. It tried to break it, got rejected, pulled back. Now we're testing the uptrend and we're holding that. So I think we can see continued grind higher today on that. Let's take a look at the Apple here. So Apple, 241.45, pivot to the upside today. Level holds room towards 242.61. If that breaks, 246 will be tested. 241.45, unable to hold, look for a pullback to 240 support. If that breaks, we see 238.29 on the downside today. Leaning bullish on Apple, looking for continuation higher. Nice looking chart. Obviously get close to those all-time highs again. Amazon, 17.65, pivot. Level is reclaimed, room towards 17.85. Unable to hold it. The pivot, look for a pullback towards 17.39 on the downside. Leaning bearish until we reclaim the pivot, which could happen on the open. So watch for that if you're going to be trading Netflix. If you're going to be trading Amazon. Netflix, 369.92 pivot. Level is reclaimed, room towards 376.66. Unable to hold or get above that pivot, look for a pullback towards 264. If 264 breaks, we see 260 on the downside. Leaning bearish until the pivot reclaimed. Facebook, 183 pivot. Level is reclaimed, room towards 185 to 186. We could see possibly more range to the upside if it gets above that level. 183 unable to hold, look for a pullback to 181 support. If that breaks, 179.19 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Facebook, leaning bearish until it reclaims the pivot. So on the bearish side this morning on it. Google, 1245.85 pivot. Levels unable to hold, look for a continuation towards 1236.94 to the downside. That breaks, we see 1230. If we're able to get back above the pivot, look for continuation at 1254 on the upside. Leaning bearish on Google until it reclaims the pivot. So that's what I'm looking for there. So if you guys popped in on the stream today on YouTube, if you guys got any questions, feel free to reach out at Spartan Trading on Twitter, Spartan at SpartanTrading.com on email, or you can just go to the website, Spartan Trading. Check us out. All right, that's it. We're going to cut the stream off, and I'm going to get ready for the open with my guys. All righty, so let's see. BCO tear levels, sure. All right, so tear levels, boss, you got obviously 62.20, your pivot, and then 64.12, and then you got 65.62 on the upside. So there you go. Let's go look at Disney, and then we'll look at FedEx. So Disney, obviously last day's high is important. Levels would be 133.20 is your key support. And then your next resistance is 134.26. And then above that, you got a little bit more room. Yeah, 135.96 after that. So the key support to get back above is obviously that 133.20, 50 EMA on the upside. See if we're able to reclaim it. Watch that level. Let's take a look at FedEx.